I'm working my way up to number two, I hope. We are here now. You may be watching from anywhere. I mean, maybe from Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or Instagram or Periscope, that dying platform. But I'll tell you what, this show is actually emanating from haps.tv, HAPPS.tv. You can go there on your browser. Chrome works best, or you can go to the Haps app if you're more of an appy type person. One of the reasons to go there as opposed to watch where you are now is because you can see all of the comments from all of the platforms, and especially from the people on Haps. And if you're just some schmo on YouTube by yourself and with one other weirdo, then you can only see your conversation. I want to thank the sponsors for this show and all of my shows. That's another reason why I love Haps. Hey, let it be. Let's see here. Mark Gage, Yoder, Admiral, Tina Lynn, Jason Short, Sports for the Blind, Jack Bury, Vegas Brent, Brenda, and Dick Long. So if you want to add your name to that list, feel free to sponsor me. Sometimes it comes up in the comments, sometimes it doesn't. Thank you very much, Admiral. I appreciate that. Now today, hello, Brenda. I just mentioned you guys. Thanks for being here. Today, I'm very, very excited because it's a new show. I was originally going to call the Comics Roundtable, Comedians Roundtable. I don't even know if that fit within the amount of characters you have, but this will be sort of like an experimental thing that I do until we find the right format. But I'm really excited because I have two of the comedians from the Haps on. No, wait, it's the Comedy on Haps project with me. So I'll introduce them now one at a time, because if I tried to say them both together, it would just come out all jumbled and weird. So first off, my friend, well, I met both of these comedians in New York City. She's now living in Colorado, right? And doing comedy out there. My friend Mo Vida. Hello, Mo. Let me Hey, we're both wearing hats.
Yes, and I got my Boulder hat on, so
Yeah,
I'm very Colorado nice today.
Mo told me when I came on the studio, she said, we're both wearing hats. And I thought she said we're both on Haps. And I was like, well, of course we are. That's what we're doing. All right. And next, I want to introduce, well, we met in New York City as well doing comedy, and now she's in Tokyo. Please welcome Kilaurasan.
Yo, what's up, world? My name is Kilaurasan, aka Pink Unicorn. I'm sorry I don't wear hats. Instead, I'm wearing pink hair.
And it still looks great. I made the cardinal mistake of eating a peanut before the show. I don't know if you guys have found this doing comedy, but there's certain things you shouldn't eat before a show because tiny little particles will get stuck in your throat. And so when you try to tell your joke, you're like, and then also another rule that I learned is to always have an open bottle of water on stage, or I guess a drink or something. But trying to open a bottle of water when you're choking on stage with a mic in your hand is very difficult. And I will admit that I have actually taken a beer off of one of the front tables and chugged it because I was choking and wanted to be able to go on with my set. Anyway, Kilara, how are things in Tokyo? Everything. How's everything in Tokyo right now?
Everything. Still terrible, but getting a little bit better. But another problem is just started. That is hay fever.
Yeah.
Hay fever season has come.
Here too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's another tragedy for me. Yeah, I'm struggling, but actually, yeah. I'm enjoying my life in the spring.
Good.
Yeah.
Hay fever, cabin fever, deadly COVID, all types of fevers going around.
And I also struggle with yellow fever.
Yes, me too. Yes, if you saw my college girlfriend, you'd know that was true. And Mo, how are things in Colorado?
Cold, but I missed it because I was in LA.
Right.
I left here on Thursday, and I think it was 9 degrees. And I missed all of that, but it's still cold.
Oh.
It's still snowy, but it's good. We're good. Fine.
I hope the LA COVID variant that you brought back, I hope they name it after you in Colorado.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, here's what I was thinking about doing here. And by the way, let's include the audience members in on this in the chat. What we decided we're going to do, and actually I decided, then I asked the comedians if it was okay. We're gonna kind of go round robin style, which sounds a lot sexier than it is. And we're just going to ask each other questions, and the questions could be anything. They don't have to be provocative or comedian crazy questions, although they can be, I suppose. And we'll just get some answers, and we'll see what happens. And then if you guys in the audience, some of you who have been my college students in the past, if you have questions for us as well, you can ask in general or you can ask in particular. So I will start because I sprang it on the two comedians here. And by the way, I'm trying very hard. Now, I know that both of you are women, but I know that, right? But I'm trying very hard not to be like, the ladies. It's
I'm fine. I'm older, so I'm still okay with that.
I know. It's just that, we're all comedians, and the worst, by the way, for people who don't do comedy, the absolute
Aaron, we'll
worst.
call you lady.
That's
How's
fine
that?
with me. That's
Would that
okay.
be better if we were all just referring to each other as ladies?
3 ladies. It's fine with me. But when I ran my comedy shows in New York, I would tell the MCs, I'm like, don't bring up the comedian. Like, an introduction is not that your next comedian is a woman, okay? Because that is not like a credit. I mean, it's a credit, sure, but your next comedian, she's a woman. Like, okay, no, just if she has credits, give her credits. If not, just bring her up clubs and colleges or whatever. All right, so I'm gonna ask. Let's see. I'm gonna ask Kilaurasan a question first, and I didn't really have anything in mind, so I'm just gonna make it up off the top of my head here. Do you like living in Japan or the United States better?
Can I be honest?
Which do you prefer?
I love to live in America.
You'd rather be in America? Why is that?
Well, to say the truth, Japan is really still, how can I say, island culture, and still very closed. And once I experienced, or once I learned the culture out of Japan, it's too, how can I say, like, I can't breathe.
Right. It's provincial in Japan. You know what I mean? Like narrow-minded kind of.
Yeah, and basically we have to be the same, or we have to fulfill the some criteria to be normal. So I dropped out of schools and I do comedy in English out of Japan. I'm too unique for them. So, and then I have a voice and I speak loud. Maybe, Japan is still sexist country. They don't like girls speaking loud so much, or speaking political opinions, or talking about their opinions, especially for, TV talents, or, I'm also talent here in Japan, so they don't like it. So it's, it's too much pressure for me. And also English stand-up comedy is nothing here. So they don't know. Sorry?
There must be expat clubs, right, where Americans, British, Australians go for comedy.
Yeah, there are many expats, but there are no professional comedians or professional market here. So I need to present myself, or I need to propose some ideas to Japanese company or international companies here in Japan by myself. But basically Japanese people don't get sarcasm, or political jokes, or a little bit attacking jokes, or so
by the way,
I'm sorry,
everything has to be clean. Yeah, well, I've heard that for a lot of different countries, actually. Same thing in Istanbul, where Turkey, where our friend Asli is. Quick question, sub question, do you know Rio
Koike? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I met him at an album store in Tokyo.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Okay, my question is done. Thank you. I love your answer.
Yeah.
Kilara, now it's your turn to ask Mo Vida a question.
Okay. Oh, Movida. So you are in Colorado. It's not a question. Just to make it.
Yes, it's fine. Yes, I'm in Colorado.
What is the difference in comedy between New York and Colorado?
There are actually quite a few differences that I picked up on since I've been back. So I think one of the biggest differences for me and what's helped me kind of round out my comedy is that you can get a lot more stage time in Colorado.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you know this, Aaron, like in New York and Colorado, you've done it comedy in New York. Like you're hoping for 5 minutes, you're doing 5 minutes for a long time. It's a big deal to get up to 7. 10 minutes is like, you're a real deal. And here, most shows, if you get booked on them, like even if it's a bar show or brewery show, you're doing 10 minutes minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really helped. And I remember the first time they said, well, can you do 15? And I thought, sure, because I knew I had the material, but I just never done that. And so it works a different muscle. It's not just about having the material, but it's having the ability to put a set together, keep the energy, not forget, honestly.
Right.
So that's probably one of the biggest differences. Also, the audiences, they come out, they're very gracious, they pay, they're there. You don't have these competing things going on in the room, or people walking out because it's a free show and they walked in off the street and they're bored and now they're leaving. So it helps you develop in that way. But I will say I'm glad I cut my teeth in New York, because doing comedy there really put me in a lot of different situations and helped me think on my feet, and just I think I'm stronger for it. So those are the two biggest differences.
Interesting. So if I start or if I want to perform in Colorado, how can I get a chance?
I mean, in all seriousness, hit me up. We have some comedy pages that you can put a post up on and let people know when you're coming through, and when you would like to go up. And that's the other thing. I mean, with traveling comics, people will try to give you a spot. So yeah.
I've never seen someone so blatantly fish for a spot before. If I was coming to Colorado, who might I talk to about? I liked it though. I like the hustle, Kilaura. I appreciate it very much.
Ask and you shall receive.
You have to ask. I thought it was great. All right, good question, good answer. Now, Mo, lay one on me.
Ooh, no. All right, Mr. Haber.
No question.
I want to know,
Okay.
to date, what is or I'll make it easier, what is one of your proudest comedic achievements, and why?
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a tough question. I was talking about it the other day on one of the broadcasts here, and it seems like such a weird thing. And I've done like literally thousands and thousands of improv shows, amongst other things. And two things come to mind. One is when I auditioned for America's Got Talent, and the people here that watch me here kind of egged me on to do it. I wouldn't have done it. And they were like, you have to do it. Why aren't you doing it? So I drove to Phoenix and I auditioned. I was in the character that I kind of was. I'm still kind of that character, but more so. I had a big beard and flowers in my beard and all kinds of stuff. I always wear a jacket with no shirt underneath. And I was like a raging dick. I was just just an asshole, and now I'm only like 75% asshole, but I was like 1,000% asshole. And I auditioned for America's Got Talent, and I ended up out of the tens of thousands of people that auditioned, I ended up getting through the camel call auditions into the first round. And one of the things I did, which we were talking about, was you get to the American's Got Talent audition, you wait and you wait and you wait, you sign up, and finally they say, okay, well, we have these 100 people, we want you to come to groups. And they said, all the comedians go over here, and all of the dancers and people who need keyboards go over here. And I said, fuck this, I'm not going with the comedians, because then I'm just going to be competing with just a room full of comedians. I'm going to go with the dancers and go to the dancing judge. And so I went to the dancing judge, and I made up some excuse, some dick excuse as to why I was there. And oh, thank you, Mark. And I was just an asshole from the get-go, you know. And they were asking me questions. They were like, "So what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "Aren't you a producer? Don't you? How'd you get your job?" You know. And I can't totally tell you what I did because I'm under an NDA, but I'll tell you that the last time I did it, Admiral paid me $100. That's a hint for Admiral. I don't think you guys are gonna know what that is. I'll tell you off camera if you want. And they had everybody else leave. They asked me to stay behind, and the producer said, "What's your deal?" And I was like, "This is what I do. This is my professional thing." Like, no. Are you like a real person? Like, what is going on right now? Because they have a questionnaire where they say, "What is your dream?" And I said, "My dream is to one day ride a unicorn that has a laser, you know, coming out of its head." And I said, "The technology doesn't exist yet." And they're like, "What? Like what?" They were like, "Are you a real person?" And I was like, and they're like, "Nobody's here." I'm like, "Yeah, this is my act." And they're like, "Okay." And then they had me go on to the, I guess the executive producers or whoever it was. And during that moment, when I was like, I had to like change because of what I was doing before I saw the producers. And in that moment, when I knew that I had like aced it, it was probably the best I've ever felt doing comedy, even though it wasn't like a comedy show. Now, I auditioned in front of the celebrity judges. I didn't get through, you know, but I auditioned for them. I was on TV for like 12 seconds, not even doing my audition. They didn't even show it. But and Howie Mandel came up to me afterwards. He was the only one that voted me through. He was like, the other judges didn't get what you were doing. I got it. And I think it was really funny. And that was a nice thing for him to say. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm going to answer that question about like the best I ever felt, that was the best I ever felt doing comedy, like the best achievement. Also, teaching at Princeton was a really proud moment for me, like helping kids at Princeton and being asked to do that and teaching in the room where Einstein used to teach math or physics, I guess. Like that was really cool. And yeah, those are the two things that come to mind. And anytime like I would work with a comedian and they had a breakthrough or something, that was nice too. But for me personally, like those are the two things.
That's awesome. I applaud you. I applaud you for going with the dancers. I wouldn't have had the balls. I would be like, I'm gonna go where I'm a lemming. I'll go where you tell me to.
I felt the whole time I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. That's how I was thinking in my head. Let's see if there's any questions here from the crowd. Admiral asked a question to you, Mo. I guess Mork and Mindy was set in Colorado.
Yeah, in Boulder.
So do people still talk about that ever? I mean, I'm sure it doesn't come up in conversation, but is it like some kind of Mork statue or something?
No, I mean, I think people know. It's a college town, so the University of Colorado is there. And I think that show was long enough ago that kids today, they don't know. So it doesn't really come up that much. But
okay.
I know it was Boulder.
You and Admiral know. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments and I will pass them along. So now we're going to go backwards. And I'm going to ask Mo a question. Mo will ask Kilaura a question, and Kilaura will ask me a question. So let's see. Okay, so it's gosh, I don't know. It's such a the question that everybody asks, right? Why did you start doing comedy, Mo? I mean, you're like a corporate type person, which a lot of comedians are. You were married, right? You weren't doing comedy when you were married, were you?
No.
So was it like how soon after you separated or got divorced did you start doing comedy?
Well, I love this question because usually people ask like at a show or whatever, and I give them the true answer. So they'll say, "Well, what made you start comedy?" And I'm like, "My dad died." And they think I'm kidding, and I'm not. And I'm not trying to be morbid, but that really was it. My father passed away in 2009. I was in New York. That was the height of the financial crisis.
Right.
And I had talked to my mom, who was out in Colorado by herself, and I said, "Well, do you want me to move home?" And she said, "Well, no, I'm okay for now, but it dawned on me that I may not be in New York forever." And I was kind of racking my brain, and I was like, I want to do something that's very New York, and I'm not going to run a marathon. That's out. Um, and so I signed up actually for just a 1-day workshop for comedy writing, because to me, New York is the mecca for comedy, like stand up.
Who was teaching that?
Well, so here's the funny thing. I took it through Gotham Writing Workshop,
Yeah,
so not the
right.
club. And it
Right.
was Dave LaBarca, which
I've heard
shout
Dave
out to
LaBarca.
Dave. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was just a 1-day workshop, and I had so much fun. And at the end, he said, "Hey, FYI, if you're interested, you guys, I do a 10-week course, and that culminates with having to perform at a club." And I was like, "Well, that sounds terrifying and awful. Where do I sign up?" So it was like an homage to my father.
Okay, that's cool, but there is a piece missing from the story, which is I understand your father died, and my condolences, by the way. And
Well, thanks.
I know it's a long time ago, but is there a period where like it's 10 years? Fuck that. Who cares?
No, listen, it's however people look at it. Some people are still mired down in it. So I do appreciate it.
So the question is, your dad died, and you said, "I'm not going to be in New York forever, so I might as well do comedy." But that's such a random. I get it that it's a New York thing to do, but there must have been some thought beforehand. Did you? I mean, you never thought about comedy before that?
Not me doing it. I mean, I really enjoyed going to comedy clubs, and I think probably, to me, New York was about the art. So that's where artists went, whether you were a writer or a performer or a dancer. And I'm none of those things. And so I don't really recall, but I think probably what had happened is I picked up one of those, brochures that they would have on the street or whatever. And I was probably thumbing through it, looking at
Right.
because I had taken like a poetry workshop class or whatever.
Yeah, I've got my Gotham writing book right here.
There you go. Yep.
There it is. Yep.
There
Okay.
it is. Yeah. And I think that, so it wasn't so much the comedy piece. It was just like I was familiar with them. I was like, I want to be artistic. But then I saw the comedy thing and I thought, oh, I really love comedy. I'm just going to take a workshop. I'm curious how it works. So I really never thought, I really never thought I'd be a stand-up comic.
Well, good for you. That's great. All right. So now, great answer. And now, do you have a question for Kilaura?
I have so many questions for Kilaura.
Well, keep it to one. Stick to the rules.
Don't ask my age.
So let's see. I want to ask, actually, I think you said does it have to be comedy related or
no? It's probably better if it's not comedy related. It doesn't matter either way.
So, Kilaura, you were talking about, how you've traveled and kind of coming out of Japan, it's opened widened your horizons, opened your world. So I'm kind of curious what countries or what trips are on your bucket list. So what's something like a big trip or a country you really, really want to visit, and why?
That's a good question. So far, when I go overseas, I always decide, or my, how can I say, kind of goal or mindset is when I go overseas, it should be for comedy. But I want to go to that country for comedy and also for my private purpose. The country is South Africa.
Oh, nice.
Yes, South Africa, because when Obama was elected for the first time, I was studying abroad at an HBCU, historically black college and universities in Virginia, and I was really into black studies at the time because when I was a teenager, I got so mentally sick. In America, that's known as a comedian. Anyway, so and then by coincidence, I saw some, or I touched some black cultures or pictures of Haiti, and I was really impressed by their energy, and even under the hard time. So it made me feel like I want to study both theater arts or art and black culture. So that's why I decided to go HBCU. By the way, but Africa is still my dream place. And I've been to Tanzania and Kenya, but African country has each different attractions. But South Africa is now really growing, and it's Trevor Noah came out of South Africa,
Yeah.
and maybe sorry if there are any African people in crowds. As an outsider, South Africa is one of the most powerful or most growing place in African continent. So that's why I really want to see how the trend or how the modernized culture and their African-based culture are mixing together, and I really want to feel the power and the energy over there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and they seem to have a really cool comedy scene. I can't remember her name, but I actually met a female or woman comic. Can't say female anymore. A woman comic from South Africa who was in New York for a time, and she was telling me about the scene. So it sounds really awesome. Good choice. Yeah. Good choice. I approve.
Arigato. Thank you.
Okay, so now, Kilaura, do you have a question for me?
Okay, there's so many questions I get, but
well, whatever one you think is the one you want to ask right now, lay it on me. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you have any specific experience with Japanese people, not me?
Oh yeah, sure.
Or sure. Memorable moment?
Well, yeah. Well, I won't say I have like a huge friendship with Rio. Rio's a comedian that was in New York City for a long time and did great. But we were both at Broadway Comedy Club all the time, and he's a funny guy. I actually we have the same joke. I know he didn't steal it. It's just a general joke about like curse words, and the gist of the joke, and this was a long time ago. The gist of the joke was like, why is motherfucker a bad word? Without, my joke was like, without motherfuckers, none of us would be here. And he had a similar joke, and I heard it, and I just said, it makes so much more sense for him to be telling this joke because he's coming from the language as an outsider. I was like, it was just one of those jokes we both wrote, and I was like, I didn't even talk to him about it. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna do that joke anymore. But in college, I'd say my my most memorable relationship with somebody from Japan was, I stayed in the dorms the summer of my freshman year of college, and everybody was talking about this girl Reiko, and I hadn't met her, and everybody's like, oh, Reiko is so beautiful, and Reiko, and all I heard was that she just kept turning everybody down, and she wasn't interested, and she was from Tokyo.
Okay.
And she was studying there over the summer. And then I finally met her, and we hit it off really, really well. And I think I was just a very unique looking American. I mean, of course we liked each other, and we kind of, we really liked each other. I mean, we dated for about 6 months to a year, something along those lines. And our first date was I took her to see Snow White because I thought that she didn't speak any English, by the way. Um, she spoke like maybe 2 words of English, and I didn't speak any Japanese, but we kind of hit it off anyway. And uh, I took her to see Snow White because I figured like if we went to see like a normal American movie, that she probably wouldn't understand a great deal of it. And with Snow White, it's mostly, it's mostly pictures. So anyway, we had a great time. At the end of the first day, she told me she loved me, but then I realized that there were like, 50 different words, for love in Japanese, and so it didn't quite mean she was in love with me. And she was super cool. She was the lead singer of a Ramones tribute band in Tokyo, and it was with I think maybe her sister and a couple other people, and none of them spoke English, so they just learned the songs phonetically and performed and sang, the Ramones songs phonetically. I thought that was so cool. I love the Ramones and all that, and we just had a great time. And we would, she picked up English really, really quickly to the point where like she would ask me a question. I'd start explaining to her. She'd like, "No, I know that. I'm asking you a question about." But I took her for her first trick or treating, because at that point, I don't think Halloween was a big deal in Japan. This is like 95, no, 92, and she had never really heard of it, and so she got dressed up like a Hasidic Jew, and we went trick or treating, and she would like ring the doorbell and go, "Oy vey, trick or treat," but I don't want to like minimize her to just the funny things she did here because she really was brilliant. I mean, she picked up English, which is a very tough language, in a very short amount of time, and she was just really, really nice, really fun. We broke up because I got mono. You know mono?
No.
Laura, do you know what that is?
No.
They call it mononucleosis. They call it the kissing disease, and basically you get really sick for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it takes your body about 6 months to recover.
Oh, wow.
And so I couldn't do anything. And she was here in the States, and she wanted me to go across the country with her, and I just couldn't. I was too sick. So she ended up dumping me for another Japanese exchange student, Hiro, which I was very bummed out about. Also, it's funny because, people would think like, oh, how is it dating somebody from Japan? I was like, yeah, whatever. She was Japanese. It didn't matter to me. And my parents really liked her. I brought her home for Christmas over the break because she had nowhere to go. So we had a great time with that. But her parents didn't like the fact that she was dating a white guy. And so they put a lot of pressure on her. That was one of the reasons why we broke up. And I'll tell you that, from time to time, I've tried to like look her up. And it's like really not possible to look up somebody. Like, I think there are a lot of Reiko Fujikawas. And to try to like, I don't know, it's been over 20 years. So I just, I'll probably never see her again. But she was a lot of fun, and that was my most intimate relationship, literally, with somebody from Japan. And I always have a special place in my heart for her because she was really, really nice, and we really had a good time.
Okay. She triggered your yellow fever?
She had yellow fever, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just called dating for her.
Wow, great story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Hiro.
Yeah. So if you ever run into Reiko Fujikawa in Tokyo, tell her I said hi. The best, I think the last I saw anything about her online, I think she worked for Sony Music, I think. I don't know.
Wow. Great. As a musician?
So Aaron's been stalking her.
Well, you guys never look up exes online? I mean, I do. I do all the time. I was when I got kicked off of Facebook last week, I was like, I wonder which ex-girlfriends I can legitimately friend request where it's not weird for them or for me or my wife, because we've just been friends for so long, and some of them did make the cut. So, all right. So that's good. So let's see. I think we have some questions here in the. Thank you for your question, by the way. Okay, so let's see, Admiral. So the last question was for you, Mo, from the audience. So we're going to ask Kilara this question. What is your process for writing stand-up material? I actually had thought about that leading up to this show. I was like, oh, I wonder. So it's a good question, Admiral. Great mind think alike. So do you have a particular process for writing your material?
For stand-up, actually, not so much. But recently, it's getting polished. But for my YouTube channel, I sometimes do topical joke, like monologue style. So it's more, how can I say, the process is getting more uh, decided or fixed. It's more routine for me, like reading some news article and then maybe get some point of view or angle to be funny, and then write monologues. And especially I choose topics related with the Japanese society, and which I wanna talk as a woman or as a lady, you know. But for stand-up comedy, but I always, maybe 24/7, I always think about something funny. And even when I talk with my friends in Japan or in Japanese, or I always joke about everything. So maybe I pick up something, and even from my friends talking, no matter if it is in Japanese or in English. And yeah, and then I write it down. And actually, I have a specific time for writing every morning. So I just write them down on a note. And even at the time I couldn't write funny jokes, I just revise it. And I talk with my friends as much as possible. And then I think when I have a conversation with someone, I can be more funny, you know. So and especially funny friends, you know, even if he or she is Japanese or English speakers, when I talk with funny friends, I can be more funny. So I intentionally make some time to talk with funny friends and add funny things onto the joke I wrote on the note every morning.
That's great.
And
Yeah,
then,
I think.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. And then once I make a draft, I always ask my comedian friends in America or in other countries to revise it. Both both sides, like language things and the cultural things, or if they have some advice, I always take it aggressively.
Very nice. Yeah, I was gonna say I think a lot of comedians and a lot of creatives do better in the morning. I know I've heard some people say, "Oh, I write better at night," but I really haven't met that many people who write at night. Mo, when do you generally write?
I'm
At night.
horribly undisciplined.
Yeah.
I everything you're supposed to do, I don't.
If it works, it works.
Me too.
I really tend to write from observation, but not like the Jerry Seinfeld observation type of stuff, but more about human relationships, things that happen to me. And so, of course, I'm one of these people that either has notes in my phone or has my little notebook and pen so I can jot down ideas, and then I try to kind of hash it out into, you know, a full joke and not just a premise. I do really miss going to open mics because a lot of times as I'm telling the joke or something happens or something comes to me while I'm up on stage. So I think pressure also helps me. I'm like a piece of coal. I need the pressure to make a diamond. But unfortunately, I now put stuff up on Facebook to kind of test it out, see how it does as a premise or whatever, and then maybe I'll turn it into a joke. So I'm kind of all over the place, honestly.
Okay, so good answer, and thank you for the question, Admiral. Both of you, good answer. How about let's do a speed round, where I just ask a bunch of questions, and we try to keep our answers to around 30 seconds. I'm not gonna like bing you or anything. Like, stop talking. But all right, so Mo, I'll start with you, and I'm gonna answer these questions too. Mo, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you on stage during a performance?
To me personally, or just like at a show?
To you personally.
Ooh, let's see. Craziest thing. I have a terrible memory. Most recently, I went out on stage and somebody yelled MILF just off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And that just like, I don't know. That was the recent thing.
Didn't start things off on the right foot for you?
Actually, I have a killer joke that isn't that popular with the women in the audience, but I had to come back, and then that got them roaring. But I didn't want to be that dirty, but it's a dirty joke. So.
Well, I mean, you can't say that you have a killer comeback and then not tell us.
Well, I mean, so it's actually not a joke, but I do this because I say I'm a cougar, and I said, so he called me a MILF, and I'm kind of an asshole, and I'm like, I don't have kids, my pussy's still tight. So you can see how the women in the audience don't love that, but the guys are 100% on board.
That's no joke.
But it shut him up. I did it so he wouldn't heckle anymore.
All right, good. Kilara, what's the weirdest, craziest, whatever thing that's happened to you on stage?
Okay, that's my Asia's Got Talent on camera. And it's the craziest moment. Actually, I got all energies from the judges. That was the terrible moment. And the thing was, I was told that one casting staff asked me, "Are you interested in auditioning for Asia's Got Talent?" And then I thought it was audition for being on Asia's Got Talent. But once I went there, it was the real shooting. It was the film.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And I asked the casting if my costume is good for Malaysia, because it's Islam country, Muslim country. So my skirt might be too short culturally for them. So she said, okay, just bring 2 or 3 samples to see them, the producers. But that was the filming, so I couldn't have the time to check the skirt. And then once I jump out on the stage, there are hundreds of people in the crowd, and David Foster and Mel C and other Asian idols are in the judge seat, and I was, what the hell's happening? And I was just frozen, and yeah, it was terrible.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it made me change my mindset as a professional, and then I grew. I'm sure I grew. Yeah.
Well, what did it? You said it made you change your mindset. What did your mindset change to?
Like, be ready anytime.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate myself. And because I was like, when I was asked me if you are interested in auditioning for Asia's Got Talent, I was like, well, maybe it never happens if I am on the show. I felt in this way somewhere in my mind, So, and maybe it'll be rehearsal. So, okay, just to bring 2 or 3 samples, okay, and then, but now, even if for audition, just to audition, I'll always be ready 100%, and I always get ready for filming on the camera. So yeah, that's how I changed.
Yeah, I had a not similar, but sort of similar. Like, the audience hated me. I was a dick, and they were right to hate. Like, I walked on stage and I said, "Do we really have to go through this season, or can you just give me the $1 million?" And they were like, "Oh, fuck you!" They hated me. So, and Mel B, Scary Spice, was like, "You're mean," and I was like, "Yes, but they really didn't. They did not get it. So let's see. My question. I don't remember what my question was. Like, weirdest thing, worst thing.
Yeah, weirdest thing or Yeah, weirdest thing that's happened to you on stage.
I mean, the one that comes to mind, which, you know, the people that watch me already know, is that I've been attacked on stage. I was doing an improv show in Chicago, and there was this weird thing where, like, I had been dating one of the girls in the troupe, and then we weren't that serious. Then she kept bringing this guy to the show, and then we had a thing where she sat on my lap, and I'm leaving details out here, but the guy got really pissed and got up from the audience and said, "That's it." And he had been drinking, so he had a beer bottle in one hand and his chair he was carrying, like he was dragging his chair in the other hand, and he missed with the beer bottle, but he hit me with the chair, and I actually pushed her out of the way. And yeah, and then we were just on the ground just fighting for a couple of minutes, and it was such a crazy show anyway, that like anything could happen at any time. And so like the audience just thought it was part of the show. And it took about a minute, it was a very long minute, for our regulars to be like, "Oh no, this isn't part of the show." And they got on stage and they got the guy off of me. And I just said, "Please escort the gentleman out of the theater." And then I said, "Scene," you know, and like he had ripped my shirt and like not even on the scene. Like it was a pretty like kind of vicious fight. Not like guns or knives or anything, but you know.
But you were the hero. See what I did there?
Well,
Call back.
yeah.
Now you are the
Call
hero.
back to hero.
They got married, by the way.
Oh, did they really?
They got married and divorced. So I wasn't wrong. I wasn't wrong. Okay, let's see. Next question. You don't have to say who if you don't want to. But have you ever dated and or hooked up with a comedian?
Of course.
Well, it's not of course. Some people have very strict rules. So Mo, you go first.
I have very strict rules. That doesn't mean that I didn't break them.
You can be as specific or general as you want. It's not about embarrassing anybody. It's just about getting the answer.
So for me personally, yes. I do try not to. I don't like to. I really don't like to. I think I have tried to be smart, if you could say that, about who. I've tried to be discreet. I mean, you know this, there's such a double standard. And so if you're a woman comic dating a male comic and you get a spot, then all of a sudden it becomes like, oh, well, because she's fucking that guy, you know? And so I just never wanted it to be that. So I honestly have always, I think, tried to, well, I didn't try to, because I tried not to date them, but it worked out where they were higher up, you know, they'd been in it for longer. And I was like, that we're far enough apart. And I never leveraged that, you know, I never went to them and said, hey, help me out. If anything, they mentored me. So they did help me in advice and stuff, but I never leveraged it to get anything. So, but
all right. Yeah. Kilaura.
Well, I dated with an actor who did stand-up comedy as a part of his, how can I say, process. So, well, he's not comedian, but yeah, an actor. But I also try not to date with comedians.
Right.
Yeah. I know how they live, and I know how they treat women, you know, so.
Plus, it's like, I just never really liked the idea of eventually something about your relationship or after you break up ending up on stage, or like, I know myself, I'm really jealous. So it's like, I just couldn't bear to listen to them talk about like other people they went on to date. I just know myself. I'm like, why torture myself? But I would never tell a comic, hey, don't do that joke, or you can't talk about this or whatever. But I usually leave the room. Like if it's somebody I'm dating, I'll leave the room when they do their set, because I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want it to be a part of our relationship.
Yeah. It's weird when you date somebody and then you don't think they're funny. And then it's kind of like, ooh, then it kind of affects the relationship. And by the way, I was never really good at not dating comedians, and I dated probably way too many comedians. But two that stand out, one was not a comedian when I first started dating her. She was an audience member who was heckling, and I sort of and she was ruining the whole show. And I got up there and I just really just stopped it. And it wasn't I wasn't vicious to her or anything. I was like, I just don't want to hear you talk. So just be quiet and let me do my set, And I was funny about it, but it wasn't some vicious takedown or anything.
Yeah.
And then she ended up finding me a couple of weeks later online, accidentally, she said, and we ended up dating, and she was cute.
Daddy issues.
No, she was younger than me, but not that much younger than me. Well, 10 years, but she was not a comedian, and I would not have dated her if she was, because she was a little bit out there. But then she was like, "Oh, this other comic says hi," and I'm like, "Oh, how'd you know that?" She's like, "Oh, I started doing stand up," and I was like, "Oh my god." It's it's not even don't date a comedian. It's don't date anybody, because they may do stand up at some point.
Yeah, especially now, because everybody thinks they're funny.
Well, this person never stopped doing. I said this person. I mean, she never stopped doing stand up. So, but I always tell comedians not to do stand up, or not to date a stand up comedian, because it just could turn out really bad. You could end up, married with 3 kids living in the desert. Which is I don't know if you ever.
Japanese female comics, as long as I know, like to date with comedians in America or in their countries.
Right, different countries is fine, yeah.
But actually, as a foreigner and a foreign comic, maybe it'll be a good way to stay with comedians who know the industry, or who has information, or who can help the language thing. And so I adore dating with comedians once I go to America, though.
Yeah. Christian says 10 years not that much. Hey, listen, Christian, if you can't handle it, just don't do it. It wasn't like I was 20 and she was 10, okay? we were both adults, and no, 10 years is not that abnormal in a relationship. So too bad for you.
For men.
I know that there are others that.
No, I know. I date young guys.
Yeah. So what are we talking about? Okay. Honestly, I'm immature. She's relatively mature, and so we kind of meet in the middle. Yes, I met my wife doing comedy in the East Village at a place called the Village Lantern, and we didn't date right away. Yeah, too bad. We didn't date right away, but we ended up dating, and we were dating when I opened up the room that Mo and I worked at, which was probably a good thing for me, because that meant I could date anybody else. Not saying anybody would have dated me, but it kept me relatively focused on doing my job, which was probably a very good thing. So, okay, let's see. Gosh, I think that's an okay question, but I'm going to ask it. I think I know where the answers are going to be, but let me see. Do you care at this point if you quote unquote make it? Make it mean achieve the comedy goals, the highest comedy goals that you've ever wanted to achieve. Do you care if you make it at this point? Kilaura, I want to hear your answer first.
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Sorry.
So, do you know what I mean when I say make it, like make it in comedy? Do you know what I mean?
Achieve
yes.
success.
Yeah, achieve your comedy dreams. Do you care at this point if you achieve your comedy dreams?
Yes, very much.
I kind of thought that's what you were going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I put the papers writing my goals on my wall.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I don't see them most of the year though.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mo, what about you?
Um, I've kind of shifted, to be honest, under quarantine and stuff. I've done a lot of thinking. I've watched how comedy has shifted. I've also watched friends of ours, Aaron. I mean, you know these people too, become famous, and what that entails with
Who are we
like
talking
social.
about?
Well, I mean, the Michael Che's, the
Mhm.
Corinne Fishers. I mean, those guys all came through your room.
No, Michael never did.
Oh,
I
Michael may not, but
no, I invited him, but he wasn't doing unpaid spots at that point. So
well, I,
yeah,
I I had seen him. But anyhow, and not to name drop, but just you know, Phoebe Robinson, those guys, like I've watched them, and they're such hard workers.
hmm
So that's just as a side note. That's always interesting that the audience, the public is like, oh, they just came out of nowhere, and we
right,
know that they've been grinding it out. But any
right,
case, but watching how now you have to have a presence online, watching how they get treated and stuff like that. Candidly, the celebrity aspect of comedy has become much less appealing to me. So I've shifted in wanting to really write and create um, less. I don't want to say that I don't want to perform comedy. I very much do, but I think when I consider those higher goals, they're more around creating something memorable than they are about
hmm
you know doing dick jokes in front of a stadium.
yeah. I'm kind of where you are, and I kind of thought both of you would have those answers, which are both great. Um, and me, and my answer, and one of the reasons why I asked the question is I really don't know. I guess because I don't know, maybe it means that I don't. I mean, I know Vegas is a big comedy town. I have not done live stand up, and I know it's the pandemic and all that, but I've not done live stand up even like a year before the pandemic because something just shifted in me where I just started to feel uncomfortable on stage. And I actually had therapy today, and I'm very open about my therapy, and it's for my ADHD. Um, and I said, as we go on, and I'm making some really great progress with her, and I'm really grateful for a lot of her advice. And I said, as we go on, I would like help with not caring about rejection and with memorization, because those are two things that really hit ADHD people hard. We have like, nobody really loves rejection, but for some reason with ADHD, people with ADHD, it's like a really big thing. Um, and then memorization, like when you said Mo, like trying to remember 15, you're like, oh yeah, I can do 15 minutes. And then in your head going like, oh shit, I got to remember another 5 minutes of jokes I don't normally do. Um,
Yeah.
Memorization with me is just like, it is just built in that I will not remember things. So uh, I think that was like my first step in trying to get back on stage once the pandemic is over.
Mhm.
But to what end, I don't know. I'm like you. I want, not that Kilaura doesn't want her stuff to be memorable. Of course,
Oh, of course
Kilaura,
she
you want
is.
your work to
Yeah.
be good and memorable. But I'm with you a little bit where I just want to do really good work that makes an impression on people, and I don't yet know if it's a cop out that I'm like, but I don't want to make it. I agree with you about the celebrity aspect of it. And I've had some pretty famous friends, and they were just not very happy. Um,
Mhm.
So I was kind of like, oh, I've made my living doing comedy. I'm not rich like they are, but I made my living doing comedy, and I'm allowed to walk down the street and go to lunch.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's really it, is how does one define success? And, there's the obvious, like if you say to somebody you're a comic, they're immediately going to be like, oh, I love Dave Chappelle. I love Chris Rock. And, they immediately think of those people, and that's success. But to me, success is whatever, makes you happy. Um, I mean, I'm like you, I don't care if I have a ton of money, if I feel trapped in my own life because everybody's constantly watching me, that would be a miserable existence for me. I don't want it.
That being said, Dave Chappelle was able to hide out on his farm for 5 years when he was feeling that. So, money can buy you seclusion, I suppose.
Yeah, but I don't want to be secluded. That's what I'm saying is like
Right.
I don't want to have to do that. And then I honestly also think you start to wonder who are my real friends, right? And who's friends with me because they want to hit me up for something, who's friends with me so they can name drop, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I think because I've seen it up closer now, I'm like redefining what success means to me in this particular area of my life. I want to be the Betty White. I want to hit when I'm like, well, not, I shouldn't say Betty White because she's always been, but I want to hit like when I'm old.
You want to be 99 and super fuckable. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to. I want to be like the 99-year-old that they book for everything.
Yeah, no, she's great. Kilaura, do you want to add anything else to that, or should we move on to our final question?
Oh yeah, you can go. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I want to be fuckable at 99 too.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
good. Well, you're Asian, so it's far more likely you will be than I will be.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
115. Yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna make a promise to you right now. Okay, if we all live to be 99, I will have sex with both of you. Okay, but not before your 99th birthdays. Okay, so I think I'll have to ask my wife.
Give you all the Viagra, make you lay there. Yes. We'll just play shoe horse with your dick. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly.
Let me put the charger.
Horseshoes, whatever. Shoe horse.
Okay, Kilaura. Kilaura is she left she was like, I don't, even when I'm 99, I don't want to think about that. Bye, Bernie. Okay, so final question, and it's sort of like a goodbye. And by the way, I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching here. I see people on YouTube and Facebook and all over the place. Come to HAPS, HAPPS.tv. I broadcast here every day at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern. I think it's 11 in Tokyo, 11 a.m. the next day.
11 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, 10 a.m. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, follow me, follow Mo, follow Kilaura. We're all here on HAPS, and we're broadcasting throughout the week. Mo has a show every Monday, right, Mo?
Yep.
Mondays with Mo. And Kilaura, do you do a regular show here on HAPS?
Yeah, every weekday, 2 p.m. Although I was absent this week, but from next week, yeah, I restarted it.
Great. So everybody, please follow my friends here. So the last question is, what do you want people to know about you that they may not know? A simple, like 20, 30-second thing.
Kilaura, you go first.
Yeah, what is something about you that most people wouldn't know that you would like them to know? It could be anything.
Like my secret?
Well, if you want to, it doesn't have to be a secret. People don't really know you on here. So if you said something that most people in your life know that maybe they wouldn't know, but sure, it could be like I murdered my grandmother, I suppose. It could be something like that. Whatever. It's completely up to you. I'll tell you what. I will go first. And I haven't thought of anything, but I will go first to give you guys time to think. Something about me that I want people to know. Gosh, I'm pretty open about everything. So, yeah, tough question, Aaron. I can't even answer my own question. Let's see. I've never done hard drugs. I don't think that's something that is really all that important. I really want to, it's weird. It's kind of based off the last question, and it's almost, well, maybe 2 questions ago, and it's almost the opposite of what I said, but I really do want to actually accomplish something before I die. And I know that I've accomplished things. I've taught at Princeton. I've done a lot of comedy, et cetera, but I want to do something that hits a lot of people, even if it doesn't make me rich or famous. I want to accomplish something that I feel very, very proud of. And I don't think, my family, of course, my kids and all that, but something professionally that I feel like I can really hang my hat on. I don't feel like I've done it yet. And I really want to. I don't know if that's a big secret or anything, but that's me sharing some inside Aaron Haver stuff. What about you guys? It could be totally stupid. You could be like, I have a dog. It doesn't matter.
Okay, my confession is I passed out by alcohol when I was 16.
It's a lot of drinking.
Yeah, my
What
first
were you-
drink.
And has that happened since, or was that the first and last time?
Sorry.
Was that the only time that happened?
Yeah, since then I stopped drinking much,
Well, maybe
and
that was a good thing then.
and actually I threw over to my crush at the time.
You threw up on your crush?
Yes. I threw up over my crush, and he brought me to my parents' house with just wearing trunks, and my mom passed out by seeing it.
Oh, that's funny. Trunks, you mean
Can
trunks? You
it
mean
be
like
also?
trunks? You mean underwear?
Yeah, underwear. Yeah, just wearing underwear, and at 4 a.m. Yeah.
That would, I don't know. Maybe I would pass out if my kid did that. I don't know. All right, good answer. Thank you. Glad you survived that. Mo, what's your answer on this one?
Well, I feel like your audience doesn't know this, but they should. But Kilaura is actually my daughter, and I did pass out when they brought her home at 4 a.m.
Come
drunk.
on, come on.
And also, I love how you're like, that happened to me once. And I'm like, that is not the case with me. I probably have some very good Mo was drunk stories. Let's see. What to know. No, I guess.
Wait, Mo.
Okay.
While you're thinking, Kilara, do you see Daniel Miner in the comments over there?
Daniel? Yeah.
He asked, "Do you do university?" Then he typed in Japanese. He's an American living in Japan, and he works at a university. So you might want to, get together with him and talk, because who knows, maybe he has a gig for you or something.
Okay, great. Well, so actually, in Japanese college, they don't have the custom to invite stand-up comedians to their college at the school festival, Bunkasai, which is in the Chinese letter. But instead, I did some seminar or speaker. I was also invited as a speaker and did some comedy in order to introduce like stand-up comedy or making some political opinion or comments or the freedom of speech. And also, as I said, I was once I became a hikikomori, like a mental illness, and then recovered it from the point
You talk about that
by comedy. So comedy was huge on the process. So I shared my experience with those students. Well, I suggested I went to some universities here in Japan to propose my gig at their school festivals, but they don't know what it is. So they usually invite Japanese comedians for school festivals.
Well, who knows? Maybe Daniel's the guy that makes a decision at his university. So follow each other and figure it out, and maybe there'll be a gig for you.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Nice to meet you.
All right, Mo, plenty of time for an answer. What do you got?
It's quick. I really, really, really want to, and I have fantasies about this. I really want to do and crush a set in Budapest, Hungary, in Hungarian, in front of family and friends, and show them how comedy is really done.
That's cool. You should. Are you friends with Carmen Lynch?
Yeah, we know each other.
Carmen does stand up in. Her family is from Spain, and Carmen does stand up in Spanish. I
know Brian Grassi. So Brian started that. She was on a show that Brian Grassi had started in New York that was Spanish speaking.
I think she's done it in Spain too. And then Daniel Torado, I think, does comedy in French in Canada. But yeah, it's cool. That's a very cool. That'd be a cool gig. Do you have any jokes in Hungarian yet?
Not real. I've thought about, like, do I translate some stuff? I think I would probably write a completely new set and just talk about the differences. Yeah, because I think what they would find interesting is that. And in fact, I've thought about maybe coming out on stage speaking English, because Hungarian is not a common language, and to go from, I'll call it perfect English, although I don't know that I'd say I have perfect English, and then bust out in pretty good Hungarian, I think would make them laugh.
That'd be cool.
Like if I started doing my mom, but actually in Hungarian.
I was thinking about the same thing. It's a mom joke right there. All right. Kilaurasan and Movida. Everybody, please follow them here on Haps. And of course, if you're not following me, please follow me here on Haps. I perform every night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And that's it. We'll probably do a show like this again. You guys are always welcome on the show. Maybe it'll be this format. Maybe it'll be something else. That was pretty fun. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Did a really good job. Thank you. And I will see you all very soon. Thank the audience. Thank my sponsors. And thank Haps. And yeah, goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.